When this episode of The Walking Dead started, I couldn't help but think, what the hell is this? Did BET come up with their own version of The Walking Dead? And then I saw the rest of the group and was even more confused. Suffice it to say, Hammerman Joe and Will Smith's illegitimate daughter and the rest of the crew kind of come out of nowhere. And to be honest with you, it's so far along in the season now that I don't think I have it in me to care about a new group of people. So after this particular group finds the prison, the scene cuts and then we're back at Mayberry with the governor and his zombified daughter. Now, before I get into that, let me say this. This whole Andrea and the governor dating thing, it makes me want to puke every time I see them together. It's like, come on, nobody really believes this shit. So now, the governor and his zombified daughter, it's really kind of got to the point where you're like, come on, dude, just let it go. And I know they really try hard to make this sympathetic scene and make you feel emotional about the way he feels about his daughter and the frustration that she's turned, but kind of don't give a shit. Considering everything that's happened to everyone else, you can't really put yourself in a position to feel sorry for the governor at all, especially considering how fucked up he is. Now, there was a point at the beginning of the season when we were first introduced to the governor where I actually thought the governor was a little scary. But now that the season has progressed, he's honestly kind of a loser with deep-seated insecurities. In the next scene, we're met with Glenn and Maggie in the Mayberry prison. In this particular scene, I kept expecting Glenn to muff Maggie in the face like, what the fuck? Why did you snitch? Look at my face. I did all this for nothing. And here's a little advice to the members of the Mayberry crew. If you're going to take prisoners, keep them separate. Don't put them together so that they can collaborate and concoct a plan to stab you with zombie bones. While this is going on, Rick and the gang is still positioned right outside the Mayberry wall with Michonne. After sitting there for some time, Michonne takes off, comes back, and actually finds a way for them to go in through the back route because in full frontal attack was pretty much suicidal at this point. Like, I haven't lost enough respect for him already. In this particular scene, Merle and the governor engage in discourse about what they're going to do about Glenn and Maggie and the people at the prison and, more importantly, Merle's brother. Considering how evil and conniving Merle is, seeing him act like a bitch with respect to his brother and feeling like he has to ask the governor if it's okay that his brother be spared is kind of gay. Cutscene, and now that Michonne and Rick and gang have found a back interest in the Mayberry, they decide to go out Ghost Recon Future Soldier on us and start basically clearing out Woodbury building by building. Back at the prison, the Sons of Anarchy reject is spitting his best statutory rape pickup lines to Taylor Not So Swift. Yeah, one of my subscribers came up with that one. Right up until Carol decides to cock block him and call him out. Now, this scene was hilarious to me because he doesn't make any apologies whatsoever about what he's trying to do, even when Carol calls him out. And what's even funnier is when he's like, look, I thought you and your cancer survivor hairstyle meant that you were a lesbian. Going back to the Woodbury compound, it's at this point that Maggie and Glenn feel that this is their opportunity to make their escape. So when Merle opens the door, they rush out and start stabbing people with bones from zombies. Now, Rick and the rest of the Ghost Recon group are clearing the Mayberry buildings one by one. Rick is clearing corners with an AR-15 in what should be a really cool scene, but for some reason the entire time I was watching the scene, all I could think about was chicken wings. My fellow gun nuts would know what I mean. At this point, Glenn and Maggie are about to be executed by Merle when Rick and the rest of the Ghost Recon pop smoke and snatch Maggie and Glenn and take off. In the next scene, after they grab Maggie and Glenn, Daryl finds out that his brother is still alive. Now, this was a little odd because at this point, Daryl has been a bit independent. He's come of his own. Initially, in the beginning of the season, when we saw Daryl with his older brother, Daryl was kind of a little biatch. And I didn't really like seeing him take on the role of being a little brother again when he found out that his bigger brother, Merle, was still alive. Now, while all this is going on, Michonne has some business to take care of. She decides to post up in the governor's apartment like a black Agent 47 samurai and wait for him to return to the apartment so she can kill him. Now, at this point outside, all hell has broken loose and there's a gunfight between the Mayberry clan and Rick and Ghost Recon. They're popping smoke, dodging and running, and Andrea's taking pop shots at them, not realizing what she's doing like an idiot. But ironically enough, for the first time in Walking Dead history, there's some accurate gunplay. And what I mean by that is Daryl has an AK-47 and then there's actually some recoil. So I'll give you props for that, Riders of the Walking Dead. At least you're trying. You get an E for effort. right up until the obvious happens. Now, anyone who doesn't believe that The Walking Dead has a black man quota is lying to themselves. Remember Hammerman Joe at the beginning of the season? We found out what his purpose was. He's here to replace. While Rick is having fantasies about Shane in the middle of a gunfight, he fails to save Tyler Perry from getting shot himself, and he ends up dying. Enter T-Dog 3.0, aka Hammerman Joe. Troll on, Walking Dead writers, troll on. Back at the prison, Carl's actually holding things down while they're waiting for the rest of the group to get back. At this point in time, they hear screams coming from other parts of the prison, and Carl goes to check out what's going on. Now, in this scene, I have to give credit where credit is due. True, Carl wears that stupid ass hat, shoots with 2 fingers, and uses a fake ass suppressor. But I have to give it to him. In a lot of ways, he actually kind of steps up and does what needs to be done when it really matters. I still want to punch him in the face every time I see him though. So Carl finds T-Dog 3.0 and Willow Smith's stepsister and the rest of the group and leads them back to safety in another part of the prison. And then locks him there, just like his dad. Now, Michonne is still sitting in the governor's apartment while all of this is going on, waiting for him to return. And while she's sitting there, she hears Penny making noise in the secret zombie fetish room. During the scene, I kept thinking to myself, if this little zombie bitch ends up killing Michonne, I'm gonna be pissed. So after Michonne finds Penny and realizes that Penny is a zombie, she decides to murder her. But just as Michonne's about to get rid of Penny, the governor shows up and stops her. The governor's begging and pleading and taking off his guns and putting his hands up and waving and crying, please don't kill my daughter, please don't kill my daughter. I even start to feel a little certain kind of way about it myself. But just when you thought Michonne got soft, so the whole time while the governor and Michonne are rolling around fighting each other, I'm sitting there clapping and screaming, not even realizing all this is going on because, she's dead. Now in the continuation of the scene with Michonne and the governor fighting and duking it out, I gotta say Michonne is a beast. Hands down, no questions asked. Michonne is a beast. And just when Michonne was about to make all my dreams come true and kill the governor, old penis whoop Andrea comes on the scene and stops her from doing it. Captain Saberho. Now I can't be too mad as Michonne basically turned the governor into a pirate. So after the governor gets all bandaged up and quasi fixes his eye, enter his great soliloquy. I gotta say, I really honestly can't stand the governor, but he does give really good speeches. So while the governor's sitting there giving this great speech about how the intruders invaded the Mayberry city and yada 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 blah blah blah, something happens that I didn't expect. So towards the end of the governor's speech, we've come to realize that he's actually throwing Merle into the fire. And I honestly didn't see this coming. Now, maybe it's because I watched this at 4 o'clock in the morning and I was kind of dazed. But I really didn't see this coming, and it took me by quite a surprise. But I'm sure you guys will fill me in if there's something I did miss about what this was all about in the first place. So that there, my friends, is Season 3, Episode 8 of The Walking Dead. I'm MrColionNoir, and I'm out.